Yo, what's up? It's your boy Philly Dark One for more Hip Hop News TV. And on this episode, we're going to be getting into this Takeoff situation. There's a lot being said, like the killers might get off, they might not get off. I don't know what's going on with the story, but it's led us up to this. And we're going to hit up Blackie Speaks. This my main man. I always come to him for hard hitting topics because this dude breaks it down. If y'all don't know who he is, go look him up. Blackie Speaks and give him a follow. All right, let's tap in with him real quick.
Somehow the case just keeps raising more questions than answers. And how does the alleged killer get a passport, buy tickets to Mexico, secure a $1 million bond, and now has high-level legal representation? It just makes you stop and ask, how does all of that happen? All while the death of Takeoff is still being investigated. The Takeoff case just took a very strange turn, and it feels like no one is really talking about it. For those who don't know or need a refresher, November 1st, 2022, Houston, Texas, rapper Takeoff, 1/3 Amigos, was killed at a private event hosted by J. Prince Jr., son of Rap-A-Lot Records founder J. Prince. If you don't know who J. Prince is, he is literally one of the most powerful and connected figures in the entire history of Houston hip-hop. His name carries serious weight in the streets and in this industry. The event was held at 810 Billers and Bowling.
This is my question. Why does J. Prince Jr. name keep popping up in suspect situations where people end up unalive? Just answer that question for me, y'all. Can y'all hit me in the comments and let me know and why he's not being investigated in one way or another? I'm just curious. Hit me in the comments and let me know. But let's get back to it.
Scale venue in downtown Houston, invitation only, roughly 40 to 50 people in a room. This wasn't a random club night, this was a closed private gathering. The official event wrapped up around 1 a.m., but people decided to stay. By 2:30 in the morning, the crowd had spilled onto the third floor balcony area, and that's when things went left. A dice game, money lost, tensions rising. Quavo was caught in the middle of it. Surveillance footage later showed him trying to walk away. His last words before the shots, "We don't play like that, bruh." Then, gunfire. 2 weapons, 10 shell casings recovered at the scene, 9 from a 40 cal, 1 from a 9mm. Takeoff was hit twice, once in the back, once in the head. 2 other people were also shot, and the scene was chaotic. Now, I broke down this entire story in my video that I made back in March of last year. It was an investigative video that I dropped last year. I would highly recommend you check out that video, because in this video, I'm not going to go as deep as I did in that video, particularly when...
How you get executed like that and you ain't have nothing to do with this argument, the dice game, you innocent on the sidelines, quiet as a church mouse, just doing your thing, and you get assassinated. That's sad, man. That's sad. I really didn't know that he got shot that many times. That's so sad, man. It's crazy. Rest in peace, Takeoff. But let's get back to it, y'all.
It comes to what happened during his death and whatnot. If you want to check out that video, link is in the description below for a complete picture. Today I want to focus on something specific. Pretty recently something came out regarding the Takeoff case, which I've definitely been up to date with. And I want to share those things with you guys. And there was something that quietly stood out here. The case is finally moving forward now, and I think it deserves another look. But there were some interesting things that I just really paid attention to, and I feel like you need to hear about them as well. But before we go there, let's actually look at what happened during the situation right after he died. Before police even arrived, a nurse who lived nearby heard the gunshots. She waited for the chaos to settle, grabbed her kit, and ran over to the bowling alley to see if she could help. A good Samaritan, right? But by the time she reached him, it was already too late. She said when she got to Takeoff, his eyes had rolled back. He wasn't unresponsive. There was nothing she could do. He was gone before anyone could save him. By the time police arrived, 2:30 in the morning, downtown Houston. The scene was basically empty. Witnesses had already scattered, and a lot of them had left. Security was there. Nobody saw anything. Nobody said anything. And Takeoff was already gone. So detectives had to work with what they had, and what they had was the footage. The surveillance footage. Now the surveillance footage placed a Patrick Xavier Clark inside that crowd, and he had a gun in his hand, and as the chaos unfolded, Clark was captured on camera firing multiple rounds in the direction where Takeoff was standing. Forensic analysis backed it up. Out of everyone there that night, Clark was the only person caught on surveillance, firing in the direct...
I would love to see that footage, the complete footage that, the police saw, not what they had on camera, cell phones and stuff like that. I want to see what the police saw. I would love to see that. Just for my curiosity. What y'all think? Would y'all like to see that? Me personally, I would, man. But let's get back to it.
And that Takeoff was. After the shots, he fled on foot, briefly ducked inside the House of Blues nearby, tossed a wine bottle he had on him, then disappeared. Now here's the thing that really bothered me. There were around 30 to 50 people at this event that Takeoff was attending, this private gathering, right? So 30 plus witnesses, and Houston PD publicly begged for anyone to come forward. Almost none of them talked.
Wow.
And I'll be honest, that's frustrating to even think about. Someone loses their life in front of all these people and the priority
Nobody
to not
talked.
say anything. That mindset in its own is kind of a tragedy. Isn't that like sad? And look, at this point, investigators had already Clark on their radar. But having a name and being able to make a case are two very different things. What they needed was simple. More leads, more evidence, and people willing to talk. They weren't getting that. Houston PD's homicide sergeant, Michael Burrow, said it plainly. Over 30 people were standing outside that bowling alley, and every single one of them left without giving a statement. Every single one. Some were tracked down later, but the damage was already done.
Left
When you
Takeoff
sit
for
with that,
dead.
It's kind of heavy, because behind all the speculation, behind all the unanswered questions, there's a real person at the center of this. Takeoff was a son, a nephew, one-third of one of the most iconic rap groups in hip-hop history, Migos. Gone. Not on a tour bus, not on a stage, at a private event, surrounded by people who knew exactly what happened, and almost none of them said a word. And that's the reality of this case before it even really began, and before we move forward. Let's not forget that a precious life was lost here. The quiet one, Takeoff, the one who just always stayed to himself, the guy who was always so low-key, the one who stayed out the way, he's the one who lost his life. Doesn't make any sense. Then on December 2nd, 2022, exactly 31 days after Takeoff's death, Patrick Xavier Clark was taken into custody and charged with murder. But here's where things get interesting, right? Clark didn't stay locked up for long. He got out on a $1 million bond. And the question that never really got a clean answer was who paid for that? Aside from being stated that a family friend and had helped secure his release, we don't know more than that. When you look at who Patrick Clark actually was, he was a local DJ, a strip club promoter, not exactly someone you'd expect to have that kind of money sitting around. And on top of that, it was reported that he operated largely in cash. So, where did $1 million come from? Nobody ever really...
Me personally, I think this whole dice game was a setup from the get up. That's what I think. I don't know what y'all think about it, but I just believe that these guys, was playing real foul out there, and it was all a setup. It was all a setup to lead the Migos there and to swindle them out of their dough, like at the dice game, loaded dice and everything. But I mean, I don't think nobody intended for anybody to die. I just felt like, these guys was placed strategically throughout the dice game, and they were strapped to the nine just in case, something popped off. Just in general, that's what they do. But y'all tell me what y'all think. I just believe it was a setup to rob the Migos. Not kill them, but rob them, and things went bad quick. But let's get back to it.
explained this part and the media moved on, but the question didn't go away. And the question didn't just come from us, the people. It also came from the prosecution. Early on in the case, prosecutors raised concerns that Clark wasn't being fully transparent about his finances. They believed he was downplaying what he actually had access to, and that raised a separate alarm. If this man has resources he isn't disclosing, he's a flight risk. And that concern wasn't just theoretical, because here's a fact about this case that didn't get nearly enough attention. Just 2 days before his arrest, Clark had allegedly obtained a passport and then purchased tickets to Mexico 2 days before they picked him up. And this is something police made clear right after the arrest. They strongly believed Clark was preparing to flee, that he knew what was coming and was making moves to disappear. Very interesting. And they also had the receipts to back it up. His movements have been traced, the passport, the Mexico tickets, all of it came out during his first appearance in a probable cause court hearing. Now at the same time, his defense was pushing back, arguing that their client didn't have the means to post bond, that he simply couldn't come up with the cash. The judge didn't buy it, and bond was set at $1 million, and somehow Clark was able to secure it. Now to be clear, this obviously doesn't mean that someone is paying a full million in cash, but it still requires serious money or backing to make that happen. Now this is where things start to get a little interesting. Very early on, Clark had a high-profile legal representation. One of his attorneys was Carl Moore, a lawyer who's worked with rapper 6ix9ine, and notably, he's also worked very closely with the J. Prince family.
Right.
Now let that context sit just for a second, because here's where it gets deeper. When Clark was released on bond, his bond conditions included a list of people he was not allowed to contact. On that list, Jay Prince Jr., the son of Jay Prince, the same person who hosted the event where Takeoff was killed. And not just him, any members of his family or household were listed as well. Now, nobody officially explained why those names were on there, but think about what you just heard.
It'll take rocket science.
The attorney has ties to the Jay Prince family. The shooting happened at an event hosted by Jay Prince Jr. And when Clark gets out on bond, the court felt it was necessary to specifically bar him from contacting that same family. I'm not here to tell you what to think, but you can obviously think for yourself, right? But those are facts, and you can decide whatever you make of them. And then there's another very interesting detail that I actually went over in my video from about a year ago. A man named Jim Willis surfaced in connection with the case. He was apparently a private investigator, reportedly working for Clark's defense. And according to what came out, this private investigator was the same person who facilitated the bond. Not paid for it, facilitated it, meaning someone else's money was behind it. Willis was just the one who made it happen. So now the question shifted. It was no longer how did this guy who's accused of killing Takeoff get out. It became who actually wanted him out. Who is this Willis private investigator working for? And is it possible that this private investigator was simply a lawyer between Clark and whoever was truly funding?
Like, how are we not connecting the dots here? I mean, if we're connecting the dots, I'm quite sure the authorities are connecting the dots. I think they just sitting on stuff and just waiting for the right moment to pounce. And you're going to hear it in the news one day. When that is, I don't know, but one day it's going to happen, and the world's going to be watching and listening when they come in and bring these dudes to justice. Like, come on, it don't take rocket science to know. You know, just go by the way people came out talking, you know, right after, you know, Takeoff was murdered, when interviews was being done on the Gilly and Wallow podcast, how people came out talking for what reason. If you ain't do nothing and you got clean hands, why you doing interviews with an attitude? That's just my opinion. But let's get back to it, y'all. Excuse me for the sniffling and stuff. My allergies kicking my ass, man.
His release. Again, I'm not telling you what to think. You can connect the dots yourself. Now, the more you look at this,
I said the same thing.
Some of these things here, the more you realize that almost nothing is straightforward. Actually, it is straightforward depending on how you look at it, but at the same time, there's more questions than answers. And here is where things get really interesting, right? The Jay Prince family has their own attorney. His name is Kent Schaefer, a high-profile attorney who's worked with major artists like Travis Scott. And back when those bond conditions surfaced, the ones listing Jay Prince Jr. and his family as people Clark could not contact, Kent Schaefer made a public statement about this, and this is what he said. He said there was no reason for the Prince family's name to be included in those conditions. The state agreed, and they were removed. Okay, fair enough, but still doesn't explain why they were there in the first place. And now here's where this case takes a turn that I generally was not expecting. Now remember the attorney that I mentioned? Not Kent Schaefer, Carl Moore, who is of course Patrick Clark's attorney, the one with ties to the Jay Prince family. Now this attorney actually just a few weeks ago ended up withdrawing from the case. No explanation given. He's out. Now Patrick Clark in this case also had another attorney. She was a black woman. Her name was Letitia Hollins. She was actually representing him until recently. Now 1 month ago, she was replaced. And who replaced her? Kent Schaefer, the same attorney who publicly defended the Jay Prince family when their names appeared in Clark's bond conditions. The same family whose event this shooting took place at. He is now representing the man accused of pulling the trigger and killing Takeoff. And it's also worth noting how slow this case has been moving forward. This happened in November 2022. We're now in 2026, and there's still no trial. However, a trial is apparently set for November of this year. But there are no plea deals or no agreements yet. Now, according to Clark's own attorney, both sides have spent the last several years exchanging evidence and making sure discovery is complete. Now, when asked whether this case will even go to trial, the response was very simple. If it's not dismissed, they're of course going to trial, which it looks like they are. And Clark during this entire time has maintained his innocence, saying he just wants to move on and live his life again. And keep in mind, he's been out on bond this entire time. Now, like I stated, a trial date has now been set for sometime in November 2026. It looks like early November. But here's another detail that quietly slipped through the cracks, which is a detail that I actually covered in the video that I made about this over a year ago. But not everyone has seen that video, so I'll just talk about it quickly. At some point during the case, DNA evidence was mishandled. A forensic analyst made critical errors in processing evidence connected to Takeoff's murder. Errors serious enough that there is a real possibility that DNA evidence in this case was compromised. Now, the analyst was actually fired because of this. And since
right there, compromise, DNA, any evidence compromise, that's reason for acquittal. That's reason for to throw this case out. A good lawyer, defense lawyer, can make that happen in a heartbeat. Like, just look at what happened with the O.J. Simpson case when that evidence got corrupted. O.J. literally walked. And I believe that's what's going to take place here. This guy is going to eventually walk at the certain amount of time that he does. He's going to just walk up out of there free man. That's just my opinion. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Let's continue.
No real update has been shared on what that means for the case. No clarity on whether the evidence is still intact, usable, nothing. Meanwhile, the defense has been preparing, the prosecution has been building, and the rest of us have obviously just been waiting. 4 years later, still no justice for Takeoff. When you take a step back and look at everything together, this whole thing definitely starts to raise a lot of questions. $1 million bond, paid by unknown hands, an attorney with direct ties to the family who hosted the event, names added to bond conditions, then quietly removed, and a case that has somehow dragged on for all these years with no resolution yet. And then you have the 30 plus witnesses all at the same private event, and almost every single one of them decided to stay silent. Now, I understand the culture, you know, the no snitching culture, right? Actually, I don't understand it, but I'm just trying to make a point.
Took the words.
That some people might think that way, but
took the words right out of my mouth. Like, I don't understand the no snitching culture. You know, let that have been one of your family members, your brother, you know what I mean, your uncle, your dad. Like, I don't understand that, but it just plagues the black community because what it does, it empowers the criminals because they know that they have this, you know, guardrail with the public. No snitching. That's insanity. These dudes can run around and do what they want, and it's just a matter of time before it's you, anybody, that gets done dirty by these dudes when they feel empowered by the no snitching policy the street has adopted. That's just me, man. I don't understand it, but let's get back to Blackie.
In this situation, it's just like Goff wasn't involved in whatever went down that night. By all accounts, he didn't even want to be there. He was only there because Quavo wanted to go. He was innocent. He was caught in something that had nothing to do with him. And all those people who watched it happen and said nothing, I guess it was fear. Maybe it was loyalty. I don't really know, right? When silence like that is this consistent, that widespread, it's one of those situations that you don't see in every situation. I just feel like Takeoff deserved better. His family deserves answers, and with the trial now set for November 2026, and hopefully the person who did this can get held accountable for what they did. Obviously, this case has taken a very strange turn, and it's kind of weird how nobody's been talking about this, but obviously that's why I'm here, to keep you guys updated. If you made it this far, drop a like on this video and subscribe if you're new here. My name is Blackie Speaks. Nice to meet you. Isn't it crazy how much of a strange turn this case has taken? I'm just hoping that Takeoff actually gets justice and that the person responsible gets held accountable. That's all I can say. You guys let me know in the comment section below what you think about.
Hey man, shout out to Blackie Speaks. Y'all see what I'm saying about the brother? Like, he's in depth, talking points on point, hitting like everything, the nail right on the head. And I don't think there's going to be justice for Takeoff, man. That's just me personally. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. It's your boy Philly Dark 1 for more Hip Hop News TV. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It's free to just ring that bell and tap subscribe and tap in with your boy, man. If y'all feeling what I'm doing on this channel, you know what I mean, work with me. Y'all know that it's the lifeblood. The subscriptions are the lifeblood of anybody channel, and they're free. You can collect them free. All right? But it's your boy Philly Dark 1 for more Hip Hop News TV. Let me know what y'all think. Hit me in the comments, and I'm out. Peace.